how you doing? My name's Dave, and if there aren't enough electric piano apps in the world for you too, you can call me Daveypoo, the mobile music minstrel. How you doing? Alright, today I'm back at it again with apeSoft's newest electric vintage. Now, this is a model of a Fender Rhodes electric piano. I was the proud owner of a Fender Rhodes electric piano myself. I had a 1977 Rhodes Mark I, and I owned it for about 15 years, so I am really familiar with how electric pianos sound generally, or certainly how that specific electric piano sounded, and I'm a huge fan of it. Again, those of you who have watched my channel before know that I typically use an electric piano sound as my go-to default setting for a lot of the apps that I try. It's my safe zone, it's my comfort zone. I really like the sound of an electric piano. I usually use Gospel Musician's Neo Soul Keys, and I love that app. It sounds phenomenal. apeSoft just released their version, Electric Vintage. Now, I'm going to say this right off the bat. I don't think this replaces Neo Soul Keys, but I don't think Neo Soul Keys takes the place of this either, and there's a reason. Neo Soul Keys does a lot of things well. Does clavinets, does Wurlitzer electric pianos, does Rhodes electric pianos, does the CP80 piano. This app does one thing. It does a Rhodes, set in 1976 Rhodes. Neo Soul Keys has lots of other sounds that they've sampled, a lot of the mechanical sounds. You know, an electric piano is, you press down on the key and a hammer comes up, a wooden or a plastic hammer comes up, and it hits a reed or a tine, a metal reed or tine inside the electric piano, and that vibrates and creates the sound. Well, there's moving parts. You get the key that moves down, you have the thing that comes up, you have the sound of the sustain pedal. All of those things make mechanical noises, and Gospel Musicians has done a great job of sampling all the extraneous noises that it makes to get you the most realistic sound possible. This doesn't do that, so let's just get that out of the way. It's more of just a rompler. However, I don't always need all that sound, because at a certain point it becomes extraneous noise. And unless I'm featuring the Rhodes in my recording, unless the Rhodes is the star of the show, and I really need the most honestly true to life Rhodes sound that I can muster, then I'm going to grab this, because firstly, objectively, this just sounds closer to the Rhodes that I owned. That's not to say this is better or worse in any way. It just sounds more familiar to me. You know, electric pianos are a lot like guitars. Guitars of the same year, make, and model can all sound totally different because of the wood and who put them together and how tight things are and the setup. And, you know, there's a million factors that go into making the sound. So my Rhodes happens to sound very similar to the one that they sampled, more so than Neo Soul Keys. But let's get back to this app. Those of you that have Neo Soul Keys, you're going to continue to have it, and you should. This isn't going to replace it, but this is an excellent app, and let's go through it. The sampling on this is excellent, in the same way that the sampling on the other recent release from apeSoft, Accordion Vintage, has excellent sampling. This also has excellent sampling. This app is a collaboration between Alessandro from apeSoft and Paolo from pSound. Paolo Principe did all the sampling, and Alessandro put together the package here and put it out as an app. And it has the same familiar apeSoft architecture that you are used to. All the built-in LFOs are all here. All the things that I love about apeSoft are all present here in this app. It's also got a bunch of built-in effects that make it spectacular. So let's play this thing. Here's enough of my yap, and let's play the thing. Now, one of the friends of mine on the AudioBus forum commented that you can't really hear the growl of the low end on this as much as you can Neo Soul Keys. Well, I beg to differ. Now, that's the highest velocity level there. So it's not like in your face, but, you know, throw a little gain behind that. That right there sounds just like my Rhodes. Now, the other thing that same person commented on is you couldn't hear the tinkly high. I would argue is that this is a mid-70s Rhodes that they modeled and or that they sampled. And in the mid-70s, the Rhodes had wooden hammers as opposed to plastic hammers they had later on. They also had different tips on the hammers, and so the tone is less tingly, bell-like for the earlier Rhodes pianos, and it's more that way as you get towards the 80s. And then the people who owned the Rhodes pushed it even further because the FM synthesis sounds of like the Yamaha DX7, that Rhodes sound became very popular. So there was a add-on you could get, piece of hardware that you could put on your Rhodes called the Dyno My Piano, and it really brightened everything up and made it all tinkly and bell-like. This is not that Rhodes. This is more a mid-70s, early 70s style, which is my preference. But there's a lot of subtlety in the sampling. My playing is terrible, as always, but you get a sense of the dynamic range. And the tonal change between the softer notes and the louder notes all really shows off with the sampling. So let's look at some of the functionality of the app itself here. Look at this main page. You got the splash screen. You got the keyboard on the bottom. Here, you've got 1 and 2. Those are going to go into the effects and some of the add-ons. I'll show those in just a minute. Underneath that, you've got an envelope icon here. He added an envelope in for this, so I can turn this on and I can set the attack to really slow. Okay, that kind of thing. It really takes this and makes this more than just an electric piano. Here you've got the frequency. Oh, this is the LFO. Okay, for the tremolo. And you can turn it off. You've also got the range for the bent notes here. And then you've got a sustain pedal, and you can latch the keyboard. Let's go back up here at the top. You've got the main level. You have the pitch trim, so you can, plus or minus 2 semitones, I believe. You've got the release and the resonance sounds, okay? You've got the velocity settings over here. That's the velocity curve, so you can deal with how you want the velocity sensitivity to be on your keyboard. Now, let's go back over to 1 and 2 here. I'm going to click on 1. You've got an EQ in here. You have a slicer. I mean, amazing. Alessandro, man, pipe that thing out and make it a 99-cent release if it's worth it for you. But that would be an exceptional app to have separately. It's got chorus built in here, Okay. EQ is straightforward. I'm not going to go through the EQ. Everybody here is watching knows what an EQ is. You got a phaser built in. And given that we just got FAC phaser as a release from Fred Anton Corvest, phasers are in my mind, and this phaser sounds great. Okay, got a built-in phaser. Now if we go to 2, we got a built-in wah. Okay, that you can have be velocity sensitive. So if you want to have it be, like an auto wah or a talk box or something. Well, an auto wah, not a talk box, but you get the idea. You get a stereo delay. You got gain and distortion. And then lastly, you've got reverb, which has been on the whole time. And sounds so natural, I don't even notice that it's there, to be honest. The rest of this is the same apeSoft architecture that you're used to. If you double tap on any of these, we can get the LFO settings. Oh, there we go. I was just not hitting it correctly. So there we go. I can slap an LFO on this. Done. Turn it on. Not necessarily the best knob to use as an illustration of that effect, but you see that it works there. Let's turn that off just to turn it off. And that is Electric Vintage. I dig this app. This has quickly become my go-to Rhodes because it's light. It doesn't take up a lot of processing power. It's also an AUV3, so let's just toss that out here. We'll go to 8 matrix. We'll fire up 8 matrix. And And so you can see here, I go down to electric vintage, and there it is. And there we go. Let's put this in. Sounds fantastic. I love this app. Alessandro, keep making these things, man. I love that it might tread ground that has already been trodden, but I think it brings something enough new to the table that it's worth taking a look at, especially if you're an apeSoft fan. So if you like electric pianos and you like apeSoft, this is the one for you. Now, I want to do a quick comparison here, just so you can hear what I'm talking about with the difference between Neo Soul Keys Studio and electric. So I'll take that one out, put this in here. Okay, so I'm going to use their initialized preset and this initialized preset. Okay, just so that we're not having any effects, we don't have anything, we're just hearing the stock sound. Much more tiny. Okay, let's try electric vintage. Oh, let's turn that reverb off. Reverb off. Let's turn that off. So a lot more bass, a lot more richness from gospel musicians. Now let's go down and hear that low note. Let's try it up here. So I think there's value here. Obviously they sound different. Obviously electric vintage is a little more nasally, a little thinner sounding, not quite as rich in the bass. That doesn't bother me. Again, it sounds more like my memory of my own Rhodes. So that is enough for me. It might not be enough for you, so you'll have to decide. You know, do you need it if you already own Neo Soul Keys? No, absolutely not. But I still think it's worth getting, so I hope you enjoyed the video. If you like this kind of thing, give me a thumbs up. Please go check me out on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram. I have a Patreon page, so you can go there. You can go talk to me on the Audio Bus forum, or you can talk to me on any of my social media platforms, or you can just talk to Thin Air, and I probably won't answer you, though, because I won't hear you. So anyway, I hope you guys liked the video, and I'll see you guys next time, baby. Later.